This is the Shiftheads podcast with Shane Hewitt and friends.
Welcome to the Shiftheads podcast. I'm Shane Hewitt. Handy Andy Barrar is here, the DIY guy, handyandymedia.com. Here we are into a new month already. Andy, new month, new problems. How are you?
Good, Shane. How are you? How are you doing?
I'm doing well. You know, you might hear it in my voice right now, kind of struggling with a cold thing. So I apologize for everybody, but we wanted to have this conversation today. But you know, life happens, life changes, and things unfold in life that you never expect.
Totally. I actually have a situation. I was hoping I can get your advice on something. That I'm kind of in a quandary right now, and it's so new to me that I kind of have to like elicit advice from other people that I trust. Here's the basically situation. I have an aunt that recently was put into a care home for dementia, and she is unmarried with no kids. And this is my dad's sister, younger sister. So I had been, trying to care for her. I was the one that noticed during COVID when she was alone, everybody was stuck at home. I would go and pay visits for her. And I noticed something was like, she was really forgetful. And she had deteriorated over that time. And we finally were, trying to push her to go and go into a care home. And then she finally did. But the problem is, Shane, is she has an apartment building. And so in her apartment, she had all of her stuff, but she's never coming back home. So I had spent the summer cleaning out all her stuff. Pretty much it's like the undo button for somebody, donating her clothes, trying to sell some furniture, just emptying the apartment. Got that far. Then I renovated the apartment, painted, put new flooring in and everything. And at the time I was like, okay, I'll maybe rent this out because I have power of attorney for her affairs. I thought we rent it out and keep it in the family. So the rentals, the DIY part, Shane, is done. I'm at that crossroads where do I put this out for rent? And then I was starting to think maybe you should just sell it because I do have power of attorney. I can kind of manage all of her affairs. And I'm like, do I wait till she passes away to do this? Or do I just do it right now and skip, trying to be a landlord and try to manage all that? So I'm kind of at the crossroads, and I was hoping you can give me some advice on what you think I should do.
Well, first of all, let's declare I am not a tax advisor.
Yes. Just as a friend, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, we sort of operate in the world of small business. This would be a conversation I think that people have when they're talking about those things, bat the ball around. Here's what I know. In Canada, there is no inheritance tax. So that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you inherit the house, though, and it's not your primary residence, then it becomes that capital gains tax you're talking about, right?
That's what I heard about. Yes.
So if you moved into your aunt's house and it's your primary residence, or you live there, then if you lived with your aunt and you inherited the house, it's your primary residence. That's not taxable. But because it's a second house, my understanding is that would be taxable, like an investment.
Yeah. This is exactly what I just learned.
Yeah.
And when I learned about it, I was like, oh, well, then this changes everything. Because I was trying to back of the envelope kind of calculations. And I'm like, is this really going to work in the long term? Or maybe and some people were saying, no, you should actually sell it while she's still alive. And then you avoid that tax. So yeah, it's a tough one, Shane.
Well, you talked about renos. Are there any more renos that need to be done? This is a business.
Oh, it is literally ready to move in.
Ready to go.
Yeah.
Okay. So the things that I would look at this from a business, that's the first thing I would do. So if the assumption is right, based on what I found online with this, is that there's no inheritance tax on the cash, but there is on the property if it's not your principal residence. Then these are the questions I would start to ask. Are the renos paid for already? They're taken care of?
Renos have been paid for.
There's no cash that's out of pocket or line of credit that you're paying interest on, no extra costs?
No, it's really like it was ready to the point where I could rent this out or somebody could purchase it and then move in right away.
Okay. And so there's no mortgage left on it?
Nope, it's paid off.
Okay, so it's just free flow cash, set aside some money for property taxes and repairs.
Yes. Now the thing is, the building is rather old, and when we put her in, and I got the power of attorney, I actually had to pay like a 25 or 30 grand payment to the strata for a new roof and siding.
Yeah,
and that was a big thing. I know because I was reading the strata docs, and there was a lot of politics about that because a lot of people couldn't afford it. They wanted installment plans. But I'm told that there'll be another payment for these older buildings. You know, you have to keep up with them. So that's another thing of an unknown, which makes me think that maybe it's probably best I just sell it to someone else
Are
rather
you
than
familiar
take on
with
that risk.
are you familiar with a reserve fund study?
No,
Okay, so
no.
reserve fund study that the condominium, the society, the condominium, they should have a reserve fund study, which is a forecast of how much money they're going to need over the next 10 or 25 years.
Yeah.
That should be available for all of the owners to view anytime.
Okay. This is
So,
good to know.
yeah. So a reserve fund study is going to tell you that we project we're going to need $100,000 to redo windows in 2028. Right. So if there's $100,000 and it's 100 units, there you go. There's your $1,000, and they budget inflation into that. And the property manager company probably already has that done. If that's not done, I can tell you right now, get the hell out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this
surprise.
is just from hearsay from someone else. So I'm sure that it was done because they were saying, oh, there's another, installment coming in the future.
Yeah. So now that's going to affect your buyer if they don't check the reserve fund. If they don't, that's up to them as a buyer.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go into that sale saying, hey, by the way, good deal for you. New windows in 5 years, right? Like I wouldn't do that. But at the same time, okay, so there you go. So you have some unforeseen costs coming up down the road. Then all I would do in this case is look at the cash flow. First of all, who pays the income tax? When you're the executor of someone else's estate, I guess the estate pays the income tax on the house then.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
It's not you.
No, it's not me. So like she still has like money in her bank. And so I'm just paying all of her bills right now. It took a while, like to get the power attorney, then you have to go to the banks. Then the banks actually check to make sure you're not like some fraudulent person trying to take someone's estate over. So they do their own checks, and that takes several weeks. It's been quite the process. And this I know happens to a lot of families when you have someone who's incapable of making those decisions. And it's been quite the learning experience for me going through this myself.
I have a friend who had to go through it recently, and he really struggled with everything, right? Going back to the lawyers because these guys need this, and then that costs more money. There's another $800, all that stuff. Okay, so your costs incurred on managing this for your aunt. So there's maintenance costs only, basically. There's property taxes. Then there's going to be condominium fees.
Yeah.
There's potentially a cash call coming up with the reserve fund.
That's right.
And you've got a cash flow of, pick a number, let's call it $2,000 a month. Okay, so then you're going to cash flow, say if you set aside $200 or $300 a month for your future cash call. You've got your condo fees is probably $170, $250, something like that. So call that $250. So now we're at $500. Your $2,000 becomes $1,500. And then you're going to set aside a little bit for repairs. But then you're also going to set aside probably $100 a month, if not more, for an accountant. So now your $2,000 has become basically $1,200.
Yeah.
So that $1,200 a month for income for your aunt, turns into $12,000, $14,400 for the year. The calculation, as far as I'm concerned, and that takes time. I would also take and put $50 an hour or something. Just pick a number that's reasonable for your time to manage it. Now, not that you're actually going to get paid that, but you have to be aware of what your time.
It's a cost. Yeah. The time is cost. Yeah. I see what you mean.
Right. It's a negative net effect on your ability to earn elsewhere. Right.
That's right.
So
opportunity cost. Yeah.
And then on the other end of it, if you sold it and pick a number, it's $500,000. If you put $500,000 into a basic investment, then the income tax on that investment would just be paid on the interest, capital gains on the investment. So a basic 5%, market investment at some point, mutual fund or index, it gets you 5%. That's $25,000 on $500,000. So you're looking at, and then you got to subtract accounting fees off that. So you can rent it out, but you're not building asset with the rental. You're just cash.
Yes.
You can cash flow to $500,000 today, not touch it and only deal with accounting. and you're at 14,000 versus 25,000, take away 2,000 for accounting. I think to me, that becomes the answer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. This is exactly the back of the napkin type of calculation that I was doing.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I was ready, Shane. I was ready to start taking pictures and post it. And then I was like, wait a minute, because you always think that you want to keep properties, but this is an older building and I don't know how the value is going to go up significantly. So,
yeah. Well, here's the thing.
I got
checking your aunt's accounting and how much RSP space she has and how much TFSA space she has. Now, if your aunt went and signed up for a TFSA 10 years ago, she could have a pretty good chunk of room to take about $100,000 of that, of the 5,000, and put it into a TFSA. And depending on the RSP room, you should speak to an accountant and investor about this. There could be another $100,000 or $200,000 of RSP room. So if you took the two, so let's make some fake numbers here. And again, I'm not an accountant by any means, but this is the way I go through it. I mean, if you wanted to, go over my house budget or my financial planning, this is how I'd go about it. Okay. So now we've established what the rental side basically looks like. And Airbnb is not an option for this thing. And then you got clean.
No, not in this building. Yeah.
Then on the investment side, based on say $500,000 of $25,000 of basic revenue, pardon me, everybody. You're looking at a TFSA. Say you had $100,000 in a TFSA and $200,000 in RSP. Say hasn't contributed much lately. Now, of course, you have to understand she would have to have started this at some point. This is where the tax advisor will help you. If you put $100,000 in the TFSA at 5%, that's $5,000 a year, $500 a month that you get tax free out of that investment that you can pull anytime. $200,000 going into a mutual fund, index fund, RSP is going to generate, say at 5%, $10,000 that is taxed at her income tax bracket, because she's not working, is probably 19% or less. So that $5,000, $10,000 is only going to cost you $2,000. So now you actually are cash flowing on those after taxes at 5 plus 8. So now you're cash flowing at 13, tax free and done. You're almost at your rental rate there. And then the remainder of the investment is going to be fully taxed as income. So you're still got $200,000 fully taxed as income on whatever investment it goes in, if anything. But you've got to make sure that the money's available in case she needs some sort of emergency care. So, I mean, that to me is the answer to your question.
Well, here's the second part of the question then. I'm a DIYer, right?
There's a twist.
I'm like, yeah. Well, I'm like, okay, if I'm going to sell it, do I need a realtor? Could I DIY this? Like, I can take the pictures, I can make the video, I can write the description, I can, put all that. The only thing I think I can't do as a realtor is I can't post it on MLS. I'm not sure if as an individual seller.
They changed that. They changed that rule, I believe, because that was the problem, is that it was unfair to the market. But you can't declare you're a realtor. Okay.
Yeah.
So what's your question about listing it yourself?
Yeah, can you DIY like to sell? Like there's two ways you could, not use a realtor to buy, but you could also not use a realtor to sell a home. Mm-hmm. And there's all these alternatives like Facebook Marketplace and all these other places where you can post it. And if I could get a buyer at, and we agree at a price, that's where I'm at. It's like, do I really need a realtor? Because I'm a DIYer by heart, so I'm always thinking like, how hard could it be? Well, is it hard, Shane?
Like, I have sold privately and I've sold with a realtor. So I've done both. So okay. I've also assumed a mortgage once, back when you could do that, where I walked in with $30,000 because I had sold my house. I had a little bit of equity and I assumed somebody else's mortgage. They wanted $30,000 buyout. And we basically walked into the bank and I gave him a $30,000 check. I signed the document and now the next mortgage payment was mine and it was my house. It was that simple. It's a great way to buy a house back in the day. I was unemployed at the time, and now I had a house. I didn't have to prove any income to assume it. That was probably why they stopped that. Actually, now that I say that. So I mean, okay. So if I'm buying the house, then I'm not we're not experts here. So, but if I'm buying the house, I know that baked into the price of that house is probably, the 7 plus 3%, right? Yeah. So basic numbers. So if it's a $500,000 condo, you're kind of smoking yourself with $50,000 in fees. Yeah, call it 35. And then, so now you're looking at $35,000 of smoke. So I'm going to mortgage it. I'm still 2 years. Yeah, you're 2 years before it's anything that is yours, assuming there's no market growth. If I can buy that house with no realtor and I know that I'm getting a discount and it will sell, because I wouldn't pay full tilt as a buyer with no realtors attached. I would still hire a realtor to represent me.
Yeah.
And I would also make sure a lawyer goes through that. As a seller, I would want an indemnification contract that says, when you buy a car as is, right? As delivered, or whatever they say. So you've done your due diligence. You are buying this house as of this day at 12 noon. When you take the keys,
it's yours.
It's yours. And so you'd want to indemnify yourself as a seller. To me, I would say, trust the professionals. If you don't want to pay full tilt on it, because let's be honest, there are some amazing realtors in this world.
Yeah.
And there's some realtors that I know that spent most of their 20s and 30s high on cocaine and bartenders in nightclubs.
That's right.
Now, that's the same as any industry. It's not an indictment on real estate. But a real estate agent has taken the real estate courses to follow the laws and the ethics of selling houses. A lawyer has a degree in law. So at least have the lawyer do it, but the lawyer might charge you so much more because the real estate agent assembles the documents. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty moderate in these things. I would go to one of the discount places that they provide you with all the contracts and agreements. They just fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
Like 1 or 2%. But essentially you market it yourself.
Yeah. That's what I want to do. Like, I feel like I could find the buyer if I can just help someone to, dot the T's and the I's. That's really or cross the T's and dot the I's. That's all I really need.
I would say this though, if it is a cash, I would include this in your equation. If it is a cash deal, mortgage free, right?
Yeah.
Like no liens, no nothing.
Yeah.
It's not your money. If you spent $50,000 on lawyers and real estate agent, you would, based on investing all that money, have all of that money back in probably 2 years, maybe 3 or less. Mm-hmm. And you'd never have to worry about it again. And you just hand it over and walk away from it. Again, there's a value to your time. And I would include that if you're going to be running around like a crazy person, chasing this and trying to chase people and get deals and feeling stressed about it and going, you're putting your head down at night going, oh man, did I remember to do this? Did I miss anything? Are they going to sue me? Then yes, pay the pro, man. I mean, the thing about, as much as I tease real estate agents, because I know some that have really interesting backgrounds.
Yeah, me too.
There are some rock stars out there. In fact, I would say most real estate agents truly care about doing good business. And I would say that their code of ethics is very strong, that they have to subscribe to. And I would trust that part. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think I'm gonna do all the marketing myself, like take the pictures and try to see how far I can go.
Yeah.
And then if I get stressed out, maybe I'll get the help of
they have all
a
kinds
realtor,
of
but
so to the credit of to real estate agents, I mean, they have people that come in, they do the digital tours, they have the cameras that do the 360.
Yeah.
And they actually use different lenses. They use like fisheye lenses and stuff to make it look.
That's right.
They know how to light it, all of that stuff, right?
I know all their tricks, Shane. That's why I'm like, I got this. Like I know what you guys do.
Yeah, that's
I want to kind of
2 or 3% though, right?
Yeah.
So I would almost go and say, okay, we'll tell you what, I'm going to pay you, but I want to follow you on every step of the journey and then just use it as an education, learn everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That would be.
Yeah. No, it's a good learning experience. I think I've never sold a house before or an apartment. So this will be a great, I want to really learn everything. Because like, me, I'm always about learning skills. You never know when you're going to use this and again in the future. Right. So it's good to know.
I guess it really boils down to the humanity question, Andy, is do you want to spend your time running around doing this? Or would you rather be, jump rope?
Yeah.
Ending to your garden?
Well, like just I think I have an emotional attachment because I did the rentals myself,
Mhm.
that I'm so invested in this place now that I want to see it right through. Like I would feel bad if I just gave this realtor and he's like, "Oh my God, this place is amazing. Looks great. Oh, it's gonna," and he's like, "This is gonna be the easiest sell ever."
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, that's the issue I have. I'm emotionally invested in it because I spent
Yeah.
so much time there.
Are you familiar with the sunk cost fallacy?
Yes, yes,
That's what this
yes.
is, right?
Probably,
It is.
probably, most definitely.
Yeah. So it's the emotional attachment, something that there's no value. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't mean to sound harsh. Is that harsh? I don't mean to sound harsh.
No, it's not hard. I know what it means. Like to everyone else in my family, it's just like, oh, a place. But for me, it's because I spent so much time. I, started at the ceiling
Yeah.
and then worked my way down, right down to the picking the flooring, doing the baseboards, the caulking, everything. Just the whole, it got the handy Andy treatment in there.
Do you
And
know who gets the house if she passes or when she passes because she's already ill?
so she survived by my dad and my uncle.
Hmm.
So the two of them. Yeah.
What do they want? Do they want it?
They don't want it. They said just they were like, I was the one that was gonna take all the do. I was like, I will be the landlord. I'll rent it out. If anybody has problems, I'll fix it. But then, like when we were talking about once I started crunching numbers, I'm like, oh, maybe this is not a really. This is just like me spending all this time on this
Mhm.
when it probably not a doesn't make financial sense to do. So that's when I thought, okay, maybe I'll sell. I talked to them, and they're like, yeah, like we don't want to do anything to do with this place. It's an old building. So,
Mhm.
so I'm kind of everyone's on board. It's just like, do I try to do it on my own or do I enlist the help of a realtor? That's kind of where I'm at right now.
Well, professionals are professionals. Realtors are good. They know what they're doing. I think that just like any, contractor, you can sort of sniff out a dirty
Yeah.
one. Um,
But I want to do some research now to see what I think it could sell for. Like, look around in that area, kind of figure out, get a number, and then see what a realtor says after. I think that'll be a interesting comparison.
mhm. Yeah, and there's if you really want to have fun with it, can you furnish it completely? Make it be. I mean, you have your own Airbnb that's all tech.
Yeah.
Could you raise the value and sell it furnished and turn it into something else and squeeze more out of it? If you wanted to learn that, that could be fun too.
Oh, I had some good ideas. I wanted to build these corner shelves in a couple areas. I was like, oh, I could just make this, and then I was like, oh, it's that Airbnb mindset of trying to like build it. I'm like, maybe I just keep it as a blank slate, let someone else, figure it out. But yeah, it's just empty. It looks beautiful. It's completely empty, and I gotta just figure out. I think I'm pretty sure I'm gonna sell it now. The only question is DIY the sale or hire a professional.
It's interesting. You talk about being an executor. This raises questions to me about what's it like. The burden of being executor is
Oh,
difficult.
yeah.
It is. I was an executor with my buddy before he got married. He was having open heart surgery, and he made me the executor. And I didn't have to do anything. He was okay. He's since got married, and it's no longer my problem. But
Yeah,
the burden that comes with that, I think that's relatable to lots of people. They're like, oh yeah, that's stressful. So I get
it
that.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like, and especially when you're navigating it for the first time, like I'm in charge of her entire affairs now. Like, and between visiting her and then managing her, it's a lot of time, It's so I feel that if I could get what I would like to do is kind of do all this stuff right now while she's still alive, so that when she passes, I can just focus on, the funeral and not have to then be like, oh, now I got to do all this other stuff
Mhm.
afterwards. Just because I'm in it right now and I can try to complete as much as I possibly can right now. Um, I think that's probably the best thing I should do.
Some people prepay for their funerals too. That could be worthy.
Yeah, I got to look into all this, right? It's this is like adulting. This is what
I
I call
know. How about
real,
this?
real.
Eh? This is adult conversation from the DIY guy.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
well,
absolutely.
let's in the comments, whether you're on the Facebook group at shiftheads.ca or whatever, share your thoughts. And here's a couple of pieces of direction. Number one, have you ever been an executor? What was your experience of that? And anything that you hear in here, professional or otherwise, if we've got it wrong, add the correction down below. Be kind.
Yeah.
We're just two guys trying to navigate life, I guess. So that's a fair ball.
That's exactly it. That's
Okay,
exactly it.
a link to Andy's YouTube channel. Follow it and follow this one. That helps us because we can't do anything with all of this until you subscribe to it, share with your friends. HandyAndyMedia.com, ShaneHewitt.ca, and Shiftheads.ca. Thanks for being here, brother. And thanks for sharing so openly. Appreciate that.
Oh no, no problem. I needed some advice, so you're the guy I always go to for advice. So thanks for giving me some of that advice, Shane. I appreciate it.
The Shiftheads Podcast.